The long-anticipated Grand Exchange improvements have been previewed. Let's jump into the blog and see what Jagex has been cooking up. They mentioned this update back in February, and since then there's been no news about it. But the main piece of feedback that players have been asking for is more accurate prices on the Grand Exchange, and I completely agree with this. To find the actual price of it sometimes is not very easy, and it's not reflected well on the Grand Exchange, which leads you to third-party websites where they could be skewering the prices in their favor. So you never know what the price actually is on those items. And so Jagex says in this blog that the main focus has been to create more accurate prices for the Grand Exchange update. They say that this change mainly focuses on what they will be calling market price, the value you see when examining an item. They don't want to go into detail on how they're calculating market price because they don't want people to figure out how to manipulate the price, but they do say that the market price is based on the most recent trades, even though they're not specific about how many. And they say that the market prices will update more quickly and with improved accuracy. Historically, and as of right now, the market price only updates a maximum of 5% at a time. Sometimes it updates daily, sometimes it doesn't. They're increasing this value to 20%. So it's not going to change 20% every time, but it can change up to 20% every time it refreshes. And effectively what this means is that the price that's being displayed for the item will more quickly catch up to what it's being traded for at the moment. They also say that they've tweaked the calculations of when an item updates its price, and say that most items will require a significantly lower trade volume in order to trigger an overall market price recalculation. Based on this, we can basically gather that currently a set amount of sales have to happen before a price gets updated, and they're now lowering that amount of sales between price updates. They're also introducing a recently traded price, and this will average the latest 10 trades. They say that this value is far more volatile than the market price because it's based on very quick trades all the time, but it will provide additional information, especially if items do lag behind the current traded price. Here's an example image and what it would look like with the new system, the top number being the market price and the one below being the recently traded price. So that means that the last 10 trades have averaged to 2055. Some of them might have sold for 2060, some of them might have been 2050, but it's averaged out at that value at least. They've teamed up with the RuneScape wiki to track long-term price data. So by the sound of it, this is even more advanced than old school's RuneLite wiki-sourced tracking of prices. With this feature, you'll be able to explore historical price movements, identify trends over time, and gain deeper insights into the state of the Grand Exchange economy. Alongside this update, they're also adding the ability to see your buy limits. Now, if you're not familiar, the Grand Exchange has a set buy limit for all kinds of items. It is different for each individual item. Some items you might only be able to buy one of every certain amount of hours, whereas others might be 20,000 in 4 hours. The buy limit to be at a 4-hour chunks, so as soon as you buy one of an item, the buy limit starts ticking down. And if you hit that cap, you won't be able to buy any more items until those 4 hours have gone through. Here you can see an example of it. Buy limit per 4 hours is a 1,000. They've bought one and the timer has started ticking down. At the moment, you don't get any information about this. You only get how many total you can buy, but it doesn't show you how many you've bought or how long you have left. So this is also just giving you more information on the system that already exists in the Grand Exchange, which is fantastic. I really like that they're showing that now. They've made some changes to the Grand Exchange user interface as well. Here we've got a picture of the old one, and then in comparison, here's the new one. Here, I'll just have them side by side so we can compare them easily. So you can now see the market price and the recently traded prices up here. Buy limit per 4 hours, 1 out of 1,000. As you can see here, this is what it looks like now. It only shows you your total amount of buy limit, but it doesn't say how many you have bought so far. They've also tweaked things down here a little bit more. There's a back button there. That's been moved up from the bottom left here, you can see. Confirm offer has also been moved up from the bottom to closer to where the price is. They also have a new search bar and recent searches, meaning that if you've been recently buying like 5 different items, you can now just click on those individual ones. That's fantastic. All good changes. I like those a lot. At a glance, things feel similar, but there's a list of the things that have changed. Recently traded price can be found just below market price. They've added the buy limit timer so you know when that resets. The default quantity of purchase has been changed to 1 instead of 0, which is really nice. Why would you want to have 0 of the item you're searching up, right? I believe 1 is the default on old school, so it was always weird that it was 0 on RuneScape. Addition buttons will still round to the nearest 100 though, so 1 will turn to 1,000, then 2,000 rather than 1, 1,001, 2001. So that's good. If you click 10, for example, up here, it will turn to 10. 100 will be 100. It's not going to be 101. And then if you want accurate numbers, you can plus or minus, or just click that box to type in the actual number you want. The plus minus 20% button has gotten right click options. It is set to 20 by default, but you can change it up to 99%. So it kind of turns into a custom button you can change to whatever you feel like. The overview screen on the Grand Exchange also has quickly relisting offers at plus minus percentage. I don't believe they showed that in the picture. They've added recent searches. The search box will display at least 3 items you select in a search, as well as your favorites. They have removed edit mode for the offers. They say that editing the price is now available in the in-process offer screen without the extra button press, so you might be able to just do it from the Grand Exchange interface without having to go into the offer. I guess it'll be easier to understand once they show it off properly. They also say the client and server should be more in sync with one another, so the prices won't bounce up and down as much when you're clicking the buttons fast. They do have a tendency of desyncing sometimes if you press the buttons too quickly. And they say their main goal was to preserve the familiar experience you know and use every day while giving the UI a visual refresh that modernizes its appearance without changing its core functionalities. They also go into a little bit of the detail on why they're making these changes to the interface, and as you can see, there are more changes to the coloring in the interface too to make things pop a little bit more. And they say that's the main point of the Road to Restoration, to keep things familiar but make them feel more refreshed and better. On to the next thing then. They've improved the searching on the Grand Exchange for items you want. They're looking for feedback on this at the moment, so do pay attention to this next bit. They're adding common acronyms to search fields. For example, writing ZGS will search Zamorak Godsword and Zaros Godsword. So here you can see they typed ZGS. It now lists the result for Zamorak Godsword and for Zaros Godsword at the same time. Prefixes will also be replaced with relevant text. For example, 3A will be replaced by third age in the search, and they've got a full list of the words below. The search bar can now use common keyboard shortcuts like Control-A, select all text, and Control-V to paste. So if you've copied the name from the wiki, you can now paste it into the Grand Exchange to instantly search for it, and Ironman players will no longer see any items they can't purchase. If you're unaware, there are certain cosmetic items that Ironmen can buy on the Grand Exchange, but they can't sell them, I believe. They can only purchase them, so if you've gathered up money on an Ironman account, you can purchase certain cosmetics, and that's the only thing Ironman can use the Grand Exchange for, so they've been able to see all these other items, but it just won't let them buy them. So it's nice now that Ironman players will only see things they can actually purchase. As you would still expect though, Ironman can't sell anything on the Grand Exchange. They also say that there was some discussion around certain items having too low buy limit and they want them higher, so crystal keys and loop halves have been increased to 1,000 from 100. Staves, battle staves, and orbs are now 5,000 instead of 1,000. Darts and offhand darts are now 25,000 up from 1,000. That's a pretty big jump. Potions, including Gothic's Rest, is now 2,500 instead of 1,000. Adrenaline and inert crystals are up to 1,000. Grapes and wine can be purchased at 5,000 per 4 hours, and gems and uncut gems are now 10,000 up from 5,000. They do say they will be monitoring these buy limit changes though, and they may adjust them in the future as well. They want to maintain a healthy economy and trading environment after all. So, shorthand search terms that they have added. If you search for abs, you will get Armadillo Battlestaff. AGS is Armadillo Godsword. Not going to go through all of them, but you know, here are a lot of them. AOS, Amulet of Souls. EOF, Essence of Finality. Popular letter combinations for various popular items, basically. They've also added prefixes. 2A is second age, 3A is third age, MW Masterwork, TMW is Trimmed Masterwork, Abbey is Abyssal. If you've played RuneScape for a little bit, you'll recognize all of these, right? In this example, for example, you'd type D and then a space, and you would get Dragon in a space. You don't have to do the underscore, it's just so that you can see that there's a space there in this example. And they say, is anything missing from the list above? Do let them know so they can add it to the list. Do jump into the discussion and tell them what you think. They are currently in the final stages of implementing these changes before it all gets sent out for testing, so it is coming very soon. This week is a key opportunity for us to still implement some of the abbreviations and prefixes that you believe should be included. Essentially, they've been working on this update since February when they first announced it and took on a lot of feedback back then to see what direction they should take this update, and they've been working on that since then. Reddit seems incredibly happy with it, which is great to see. 98%, 338 upvotes. To read some popular comments, I genuinely can't find anything negative to say about these changes. If I tried the market price updating quicker and a new price showing with the last 10 trades is sold is a fantastic addition. The wiki getting real historical trade data is the game changer. There will be live price data, same as old school has, likely better since the data is from the horse's mouth. There are some comments talking about more transparency, being able to see exactly the price that things are being sold at. Personally, I like that idea, but there are people who don't like it. They want the veil to still be there, the mystery of what price is it actually. The realistic situation is that if you are a Grand Exchange merchant at the moment, you already know the exact price an item is selling at. You might not know the exact volume, but you know what the price is selling at because you'll buy one of the item most likely and then figure out what the margins are yourself. By displaying the margins, you're giving everyone the information. It makes it easier for the merchant, but it also makes it easier for the players to know exactly where the price is. And I saw a really cool suggestion about this back when the Grand Exchange update was first announced. And effectively it looks like this. And they have implemented quite a lot of the changes here, to be fair. Here you have the buy limit. You have how long left on the buy limit. You have the actively traded price, which they have included. What they have added here that this doesn't have is actually how much of the buy limit you've used. But what I'm getting from this image is that if you click on the advanced trading options up here, it will open up this extra drop-down menu. And here you have a market snapshot with the last traded price value. You've got the 5-minute average price, and you've got a 1-hour average price of all the trades that have been happening. The 24-hour change in price, so the item has gone down 121 coins, which is a 0.7% decrease. And then you also get the volume of trades for the last hour, which is 9,000 trades, and then a graph of how many have been traded in that time as well. With the wiki getting far more information about the Grand Exchange trades, it might be able to replicate something like this on the wiki, which means that Jagex don't have to implement this massive thing, right? So I guess that's sort of a win-win for them if the wiki is able to format this. What we're not getting though is the buy offer and the ask offers. As you can see here, this is reminiscent of Guild Wars 2, which I really like the auction house there. Shows you the current buy and sell offers and how much of those is being sold as well. And here you can see that there's a quantity of 1,200 Dragonstones being bought currently at 16,670. It doesn't say how many people are buying it, but it says how many offers there are to purchase Dragonstones at that price. So if you're wanting to sell your Dragonstones as fast as possible, you know exactly what price you're going to be getting if you just drop the price down as low as possible. Equally so, if you want to buy up some Dragonstone, you'll know exactly what the prices are. 900 Dragonstones are currently being sold for 16,680, for example. Now, I don't think it's crazy to have this information there. People are still going to undercut and overcut you, but that doesn't really matter because this already happens on RuneScape anyway. The only difference is currently you don't know any of this information, you don't know any of this information, and you don't know any of this information, and neither do you know any of this information. If you make one trade of Dragonstone, you can figure out this information right here, and you can then put your offers in accordingly based on what you're planning to do. Are you going to undercut the price? Are you going to put it in at the same price? Putting them in at the same price means that yours will sell after the current person's ones are selling. Equally so, if you put the buy price in at the same price as this, you will start purchasing them after the current person is done purchasing them. The thing I like about this example is that if you can see the quantity someone's buying them at, you can make an educated decision about if you want to undercut or overcut them, or if you just want to wait it out. This system here, it was like my golden standard 5 out of 5 for the update. I think they've gotten to a 4 out of 5. I know that not everyone wants this information to be visible, but I really do. So for me, personally, this was my 5 out of 5 update. They've basically done everything else that I want them to do with the update. I'm pretty sure that this information here will generally be available on the wiki once the update goes live. What they have been able to do with these changes is address pretty much all the annoyances that people have with the Grand Exchange though. Pretty much everything. You also have to go to the RuneScape wiki to see all the information, while it would be nice to have as much information as possible in the game itself. What I really would like to know though is, will the RuneScape wiki look kind of like this? Because if it does, that would take down the third-party websites that we see popping up for very rare and low-volume items. It really just ends up depending on how much information the wiki does get and how much they're presenting to people. Because as you can see here, you've got the trade volume and you have the instant buy and sell prices on the side here. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to say who's trading. It doesn't need to say that because all the information is official, being sent to wiki anyway, straight from RuneScape. But having the time of the trades, or the dates at least, as well as the values would be super useful in like a graph like this. And then being able to swap between like 30 days, 90 days, and maybe like a year. I don't know how long they'd want to keep price history, but I would like something like this on the RuneScape wiki to officially put a nail in the coffin of third-party price websites. They haven't shown any previews of what the RuneScape wiki will look like after this update though, so it's hard to say for now. If someone could trade the item back and forth with themselves or an alt 10 times on the Grand Exchange at a way higher price, suddenly they've tainted the new guide price. They would be paying trade tax every time that goes through the Grand Exchange. Though if they inflate the price enough, that trade tax doesn't really matter much. Common Jagex win. It feels weird to say that after so many years of neglect, but the amount of top tier reworks we've been getting in the recent times showed that Jagex truly want what's best for the game. I agree, this year has been slam dunk after slam dunk on really good updates. Would really love to see trade volume in game too. Not just the wiki. I'm starting to run out of things to complain about. This person has suggested being able to type in a boss's name to get all the items from that boss. For example, Zuck will show all of Zuck's boss drops. Typing a Masket will show all the Tumican items and the Devourer Guard. Basically, typing in the boss name will show all the boss drops. Though in saying that, if you type in Bandos, for example, you'd now get all of Grardor's items, but also all the things with Bandos in the name, so it might make the search field more messy by doing that. Soil for archaeology soil types would be good. There is a lot of praise for the update, but as you might expect, a lot of people would like more transparency than they are currently showing, even with the recently traded price. Almost every other modern MMO removes the guesswork for the player by just listing current buy and sell offers. Sure, these updates are better than what we have currently, but are far from the modern solution. Maybe with all this data being sent to the wiki, we'll be able to build our own robust solution in December with the API update. I don't buy the whole price manipulation reason for not implementing something like that, because there's already price manipulation going on. It's just far easier to see the price manipulation if you're able to see all the trade prices. It's still perfectly viable to flip and merchant items with the system where you can see all the listings of all the items. Now, other games that do the whole price listing thing, like Final Fantasy, Guild Wars 2, you can't simply list an item, take it out, list an item, take it out constantly. There is a listing fee. So if you put an item in, they want you to keep the item in at the price you listed it as. So you have to pay a fee to list an item. And then there's also a tax for the item being sold. And this is effectively to combat people undercutting constantly, you know? If I throw up Guild Wars 2's trading post here, you can see the bowl of poultry and leek soup is being currently bought at $1.94 instantly. There's 200 listings for it, and if you want to buy it instantly, you can pay 2 silver, 87 copper. So you have all the quantities here and how much they're being sold for. But to sell this item, you have to pay a listing fee of 10 copper. So basically half the tax of the sell fee. Now for this item, the margin is huge, so it doesn't really matter if you undercut someone a little bit. You can remove your offer and then put it in for a little bit more, but not all items have this high of a difference in price. The margins might be smaller on some items. More expensive items have a higher listing fee and a higher sell fee as well. And truthfully, I think it works perfectly well on Guild Wars too. I have never had a problem with selling or buying anything there. I don't have to play the guessing game of figuring out where the item actually is being sold for, because I can just open the menu, I can see, okay, this is all the listings for this item at the moment, and then I can decide, do I want to undercut or do I just want to add to the pile? Say I want to buy some more of this item, I could list it for 1 silver and 94 copper, and at that point I'm just at the end of the queue for this price, so eventually once enough have sold, they will start selling to me. The same for buying. If you would like to buy it for that price, you just add yourself to the queue, or you undercut the price a little bit by paying a little bit more or a little bit less. Important to note as well that there is no purchasing listing fee. So if you're trying to buy something, you don't have to pay a listing fee tax. The listing fee is only for selling an item. So if you're trying to buy something, you can keep overcutting, I guess, the price to get the item. When selling it, you are being punished heavily by the tax for listing it over and over again. And that's really the only thing I missed from this. There's a lot of good changes being added to the Grand Exchange Exchange here, I'm like 90% happy because they've done pretty much everything else I wanted. Is there anything that you guys might be missing from this, or are you very happy with the listed things in the blog as well? Do let me know in the comment section. I'd support this, but then people will see that I've been slowly selling eye patch drops with bandos for 50k each for years. That's definitely sarcasm, but that's basically it, right? They don't want you to see their scam going on. I just want to retire GE price, man. And that's it for this blog. Like and subscribe for more RuneScape videos, and I'll see you later.